few weeks ago, I was invited to go on GB News to discuss the topic of what is a woman. Now, this followed comments in the House of Commons where a number of Labour MPs weren't able to define what a woman is. And this is something that's becoming increasingly common with people who really want to suck up to progressive or queer activists. In fact, one of the most prominent examples I can think of involves a Supreme Court nominee who recently wasn't able to give a definition of a woman. So I could very easily do a video where I tell you that queer activists are stupid and silly and stupid by just explaining that a woman is an adult human female. And I'm sure I would get a lot of gender critical people or right-wing people just clapping along in the comments and saying like, yes, Rose of Dawn gets it. Now, yeah, I do agree that a woman is an adult human female, but I think that it's more important to actually discuss what trans activists and queer activists specifically actually believe and why they believe it. The truth is, we've been having a lot of the same discussions about trans activism for quite a long time at this point, and very rarely is there any progress made from those who find that some of these activists push and go too far to the point where they're actually more detrimental for trans people than they would ever accept. And I think a good starting off point for this is to actually look at what their definition of a woman is, why they believe it, and why this is a problem, and what might be more of a solution. So just to kind of dispel any misconceptions, because I know there are a lot about the trans or queer position on this. A trans activist does not believe that putting on lipstick or a dress makes somebody a woman. That's fundamentally against their position. The reason for that is that queer theory and queer activism generally looks at tearing down as many barriers as they possibly can in society. They have an active dislike of Western society and Western norms, things that they will refer to as cis heteronormative, and they want that abolished. So to just insist that anyone who puts on anything which is stereotypically female would make them a woman is fundamentally against their beliefs. But believe it or not, their actual definition of what a woman is even dumber than putting on lipstick or a dress. They believe a woman is whoever says they are a woman. This is one of the core tenets of self-ID. All you need to do to say you are to be a woman is to just say, I am a woman. This is how you get people who are blatantly men, have done no effort to transition, no effort to look in any way like a woman, but you presented that to a trans activist or a queer activist and said, this person says they are a woman, do you agree? And they will almost certainly say yes, because there'll be ramifications if they don't. They are denying someone's gender identity. And this is something that a lot of trans activists will try and talk their way around. They will try not to address this head on because they're aware of how stupid this looks. But it's the truth. When you have self-ID, when the only criteria to identify as a gender is to say you are that gender, it therefore has no meaning. And that's what happens when you get men who simply say they are a woman and that's it. And this is not an alien behaviour for them. Anyone who might have been following my channel for a while might remember that a few years ago I did a video on why non-binary is meaningless. And the definition of non-binary that I gave in that video, which is anyone who identifies as non-binary is non-binary and that's it, the same principles apply. And this is something they've been building to for a very long time with the trans people. For example, the idea of passing privilege. It's something that I will go into in a later video. But just to kind of summarise it real quick, the idea of passing privilege is that a trans woman who looks like a cis heteronormative woman or a trans man who looks like a cis heteronormative man is damaging to the community, and it's unfair for people who cannot pass or do not want to pass. Simply having no definition of what a woman is means that the term is completely meaningless, like non-binary. And that in itself causes massive problems for trans women. We transition to be read in society as a woman and to be read as the gender we identify with, completely removing all parameters as to what that means makes a meaningful transition for us inherently more difficult. Because if everyone has to ask each other what their pronouns are, and if gender has absolutely no meaning, then what the hell are we transitioning to? And the idea that anyone's just going to believe you outside the queer bubble when you say you are a specific gender is quite frankly nonsense. That's never going to happen. The truth is that your average trans woman, myself included, and I would say the vast majority of trans women who aren't radical activists either for gender critical purposes or queer purposes, want to be read as women. We want to be seen and treated as women in society. And provided you've put in the effort for transition, I don't think that is a particularly big ask. I think that if you were to go through all the steps to transition and then start using men's bathrooms and try and point out to people that, no, you're actually biologically male, is not really something your average trans woman is going to be willing to do, and I think it's kind of an unfair distinction. But there should also be a set of nuance with this as well, and an understanding that for a lot of people, they will accept you as a trans woman, but there will be some who would only see you as a woman as a matter of courtesy. You can guarantee that a lot of the kind of big names in progressivism right now only parrot the trans queer line because that's what they know will get them the least amount of flack. When you stand up over the parapet and try and say something a little bit different, they come down on you like a ton of bricks. So I think that there is kind of a degree of people just being polite when it comes to talking about trans women, and that's okay. That's okay. We are not biologically female. That's an absurd argument to make, and I'll go into a bit more of that in another video. I kind of just want to keep this one short and focused on what is a woman. I think that we should be understanding and accepting that there are some instances where simply just saying that, if you see me as a woman, you must therefore allow me to compete in sports. You must allow me into this women's refuge. There should be a sense of, just understanding the world around you before you jump headfirst into that. But none of that really makes you any less of a woman in the way that you see it. Or in the way that meaningful interactions for you will play out. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on the idea that for a lot of trans women, you can go out into the public, you can go and use public bathrooms, female changing rooms, all of this stuff, and very, very few people actually care. They will willingly call you with the right pronouns, they will willingly, happily show you respect. And I think as much as a lot of trans activists like to push that the UK is this nightmare world and it's turf island, it's really, really not. Your average person is very accepting of your average trans person nowadays. We've made so much progress in the last 20 years. And so looking at the way in which we operate in that sense and just saying, look, there are things where we should reasonably be taking a bit of a back step to because we are not biologically female, but we want to be seen socially as female. It's very much everyone kind of has to work together here. It's not an easy ask for quite a few people, I would say, but why not? Why don't we just focus more on what we can bring to the table as just trans women? Not saying that we should start calling ourselves men or anything like that. I certainly wouldn't do that. I wouldn't expect any other trans woman to do that. But we don't have to be seen as biological women. We don't have to have that. We can still just shorthand call ourselves women with a suffix on there being, we are trans women. Surely that's fair enough. Surely that's a bit of a compromise there. When we have all these kind of radical aspects of so many different communities clashing and no one's listening to each other, no one's understanding, maybe it's just more important for us to actually kind of take reasonable, sensible positions. By the way, saying that, we aren't biological women is not kind of kowtowing to radical transphobes. It's not going to get our rights removed. We need to stop being so extreme when we talk about these things and just accept that as trans women, we are more of a subset than anything else. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Because we will never be biological women. But that's fine. It's not a bad thing being a trans woman. Seriously, it's no big deal really, but it is what it is. The truth is, we don't need to redefine what it is to be a woman. As a trans woman, it's more to try and fit into that as much as you can, with the full knowledge that you're never going to tick all of those boxes, and that's fine. Society is never going to be rewritten in the eyes of queer activists. That's simply not going to happen. As far as your average man on the street, they're never going to buy any of that. So just accept it. Stop whining about thinking that everyone who doesn't follow your beliefs must be inherently hateful, and just look at what you already have. Look at the battles that have already been won. There isn't really anything else that we need to fight for except for more reasonableness within ourselves. That's it. But anyway, thank you for watching again. I'm sorry that it's been a while since I've been uploading, but I'm going to try and play around with uploading kind of like a trans stupid thing as and when the mood takes it. So when something appears in the news, I'm going to try and basically just do things ad hoc like that. But your seal of approval will be back soon. I'm going to do a bit of a relaunch of various things, including the Discord as well as my Patreon account, so I want to kind of get things a bit more rolling, and if I just kind of throw myself into it and make myself do all this stuff, hopefully that will get rid of the burnout. But otherwise, thank you all for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter, and you can support me on Patreon and Subscribestar. Thank you all, and I'll see you all next time.